Hi, welcome back to Cuffum and Quotum. Today we are going to try to do a spoiler-free review of Dragonflight, one of my all-time favorite books. I recently just did a reread of Dragonflight after watching... I watched one of Merphy Napier's videos. I honestly can't remember which one it was, and I tried really hard to find it, and I cannot for the life of me find it. I think it was something about series that she wasn't finishing, or first of series, something like that. I could not find it though, and I tried. Anyway, I watched that video. In this video, she mentioned how she had completely given up on Dragonflight and that she had done a review that had sparked all sorts of comments, which of course made me go and find the review and read it. She did not enjoy this book, which just hurt my insides because I love the Dragon Riders of Pern. Anne McCaffrey is probably one of my all-time favorite authors. She's maybe not top author, but she's like second. So when I saw that she could only give this book a 1 star, and when I read her review, I was like, I mean, I read this when I was in the 7th grade, I think. So it's been a minute, and I have not done a reread of any of the Dragon Rider books since then. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm looking at this with rose-colored glasses. Maybe she has valid points. I don't remember any of the points that she's making being an issue when I was reading them, but who knows? So I did a reread to see what I thought, since it had been so long since I read this book. And so this is going to be my review based off of my reread, and then addressing some of the stuff that Merphy brought up in her review, just because her video was what sparked me to do this reread. If you haven't, and I'm sure you have, you definitely need to check out her channel. I'll link it below. It's a fantastic channel, and she is so salty sometimes. I love it. And her reading taste is so eclectic and so different than mine that I really enjoy her content. You should check her out anyway. So like I said, this is going to be a hopefully spoiler-free review of Dragonflight. It is the first book in the Dragon Riders of Pern series. There is 3 volumes in the original Dragon Riders of Pern. There are so many more books in this world, though. Timeline-wise, these books are like middle of Pern's history. I once upon a time had an entire spreadsheet based down chronologically of when the books were placed, because that's how deep I was, guys. But, so Dragonflight is first. Yeah, Dragonflight, and then it goes Dragon Quest, White Dragon. So Dragonflight is a story about our wonderful dragon riders, Flar and Fenar, who are like half-brothers. Flar is the bronze rider of I can't say his name. His bronze dragon. His name's got too many M's. I don't know how to say it. And he believes that Thread is going to fall again on Pern. Thread is like a silvery thread that is thrown off a star as it circles the planet. And as it gets close enough in its rotation, this thread is able to enter the atmosphere as it's flung off the star, and it eats anything that's got biological matter in it. Because while these books are fantasy, they are 100% a sci-fi book. They are old school sci-fi books that end up being a fantasy, which is why I love Anne McCaffrey so much, because she takes sci-fi, like a good science fiction, starships, advanced technology book, and turns it into a fantasy without even you realizing it. So the thread falls in pretty routine patterns, and it destroys everything that it touches. Dragonfire is the only thing that kills it. In Dragonflight, it's been like 500 turns or 500 years since Thread's fallen. So they all think it's gone. They think Thread's gone, and dragons are irrelevant, and they're struggling to find a purpose for their lives. But Flar believes Thread will continue to fall. It's just a matter of time. And enters Lisa, who he finds on a search or whatever for potential dragon riders for the new clutch that is about to hatch. He finds Lisa. He thinks that she's going to be the next queen dragon rider, and brings her back to the weir for the clutch to hatch, and thus begins the book. And so Dragonflight is the story of the two of them trying to save their weir and their dragons and fight the thread that they think is going to come. Can I just say how happy I am that I did this reread? I forgot how much I adore I adore these books. So I am really happy that I did this reread. I listened to it on Audible because I don't have time to read. But the narrator for these books, oh my god, guys, he's probably one of the best narrators I've ever heard. It was like listening to like a radio show. It wasn't like listening to a book. I wasn't listening to a book. I was listening to a movie. To the actual review part. When I first read these books, I absolutely fell in love with them. I loved the idea of talking dragons that were sentient and they weren't just like giant lizards or whatever. I really remembered from when I first read these books that I really loved the main character, Lisa. I'm sure her name is actually pronounced Lessa. That's how the narrator said it. But it has always been and will always remain as Lisa in my brain. So it's going to be Lisa for this review. Just get over it. Lessa sounds weird. I can't say it. In my brain, it's always been Lisa. So this is going to continue to be Lisa. I remembered Lisa being a fiery, determined, kind of an irreverent person. And I identified her so much when I read this because I was going through my angsty teen years, and I did not like it. I still don't like authority, but I did not like authority at all back then. I didn't really know where I fit in. I was a nerd that was also kind of goth, that was kind of punk, that didn't really have a huge circle of friends, and so I just identified with Lisa. And so I was really excited to get back into her character and read it from an adult's perspective. So Lisa is a strong, independent, irreverent character, just like I remembered her being. But this time reading her, she struck me a lot as someone who was kind of pushing the bounds of what was considered appropriate female behavior for the time, in the time of the book, and in the time that it was written. I mean, this was written in the 60s, 70s. Yeah, first edition, 1968. I feel like Lisa spends the majority of the book pushing the boundaries of what is the place of a well-behaved female, right? She doesn't really follow orders. She doesn't really listen to men. She doesn't like the very simple explanations that are given to her. So once she gets to the Weir and she's kind of like learning and being taught and is kind of embracing the idea of being a dragon rider, she has all these lessons, and a lot of the like answers to her questions are just kind of like, well, because, or because I've said so, or that's the way it's always been and that's the way it's going to be. And she doesn't settle for that, and she doesn't accept that as an answer. And I think the fact that she's a young, spunky female who challenges that and that challenges the male authority that is the Weir, basically, I really enjoyed, especially written in the late 60s, early 70s, that was a character that Anne McCaffrey created. Even back in the 60s, she saw the need for a strong female character written in fantasy, especially in like the 70s. So to kind of go off of how Lisa, when she's being trained to like accept her role or whatever, she's extremely, she pushes back a lot on authority, pushes back on what she's being taught, questions everything. And she kind of starts to break, especially once I don't know if this is a spoiler, I'm going to say it because there's 3 other books, so if you don't expect this to happen, I can't help you. So, mini spoiler. When she becomes the queen of the Weir because she gets the golden dragon, she continues to push those boundaries and ends up breaking a lot of tradition, breaks a lot of stereotypes and expectations, and it's something that's just like built into her character. She continues to just kind of being like, well, why? And then when nobody can give her a good answer, goes, okay, cool, and then does her own thing and kind of just like laughs in the face of tradition, basically. And the whole theme of this book is how tradition and following in the path of your elders sometimes isn't the best thing to do. Like, she makes a joke that they're too hidebound. Hide is like hidebound for their paper, like old like old vellum paper. They call it hide. So they're too hidebound. They're too locked in their traditions of their old books, and they're not thinking forward and out of the box. Like, that's kind of the whole like theme of the first book, is breaking the tradition and breaking out of the box to save themselves, basically. And I feel like she's a really good character at doing that. She continues to just push herself and push those around her and push Flora into thinking outside of what their past says they're supposed to do. One of Merphy's criticisms on the book was that she felt Lisa's spirit got broken and that she became a completely different character from, maybe not completely, but she became a different character from what she was in the beginning. She wasn't quite as strong. She wasn't as hard-willed. And I don't see that. I don't know at what point I don't remember if she finished the book or if she didn't. And if she didn't, I don't know at what point she stopped it. But I just don't understand how she could read Lisa and not see her as a strong-willed, independent, screw you, I'm going to do what I think is right, screw the consequences kind of a person. Because that's like, she makes two really big decisions in the book that are extremely screw you and the rules you came in on, I'm going to do my own thing. And I just don't see how someone could read Lisa making those decisions as someone who's been broken in their spirit. So a lot of, I think, Merphy's opinion that Lisa became broken in her spirit maybe was due to how Fleur behaved with her, but I just don't see it. I don't know what I missed that Merphy saw, but I just didn't see that. Lisa grows in the book to be an extremely strong-willed, independent, smart leader who, in my opinion, grows as a person because she learns to work with others. In the beginning, it's very much, what does Lisa want? How can Lisa get it? And how will this benefit Lisa? But by the end of the book, she's learned that there's more to her than getting what she wants. And so she learns to compromise for the better of the whole. And I think that just makes her a more well-rounded person, and it shows that she's growing. I don't read that as being someone who's broken. I feel like that's someone who's growing into a healthy individual. One thing that made me really happy when I was doing this reread was I had read a lot of The Dragon Rider of Pern before something happened and I just stopped. I don't remember what happened. But I read like the Moretta's Ride, the Harper series. I read all of the origin stories explaining how they settled on Pern, the Renegades of Pern. But while I was doing this reread, they mentioned stuff like when they're talking about how Lisa and how they think Lisa could become one of the great queens of Pern, like Moretta. And I'm just like, I've read the book. I know who you're talking about with Moretta. Like, Anne McCaffrey did such an amazing job creating the most complex and well-rounded, deep world of Pern. I don't feel like she gets enough credit when it comes to complex world building. She wrote Dragonflight. She wrote this one book, and this one book became a series of dozens. She mentions characters in this that end up having their own backstory and plot books. Like I'm pretty sure when she writes Moretta in this, that she's just a throwaway thing. Like, she probably was she mentioned that there was some great queen dragon rider and her name was Moretta, and it was just supposed to be like fluff to help build some lore. And then she ends up writing the story of Moretta, and I read the story of Moretta. And so it's just so satisfying to read the first book and know that there's so much that comes before it that has so much depth and reality to it. It reminded me why I loved these books in the first place. You fell into this world. It swept you away. You fall in love with the characters. There's so much to this world. Like, you can read Dragonflight and know that there is hundreds of years of history on Pern, and there are books that talk about it, and that lore connects almost seamlessly throughout all of the different books. Like, it's just so satisfying. I love it. I do not feel like Anne McCaffrey gets enough credit for the amount of plot that she had to keep straight in her brain in order to get all of these different books to connect. In my opinion, Dragonflight, even though it's written in the late 60s, it's written with some kind of old school mentality a little bit about how men and women are supposed to interact and what is considered polite behavior towards one another. I still think it holds up to time. I think Fleur's behavior fits for the world she has created. Fleur is the leader of the Weir, which kind of makes him king. Like, the Weirs stand apart from everything else on Pern. They are their own authority. Nothing has authority over them. So if you're the leader of the Weir, the only thing you would ever have to answer to is another Weir leader. And currently in the timeline of Pern, there's just one. There's just the one of them. All the other Weirs are abandoned. So Flar is basically the king on this planet. And so when he gives orders, he expects them to be followed. And not only that, but the Weir is also a predominantly male world. Like, the Weir is run by men. Most of the Dragon Riders are men. So the world that Anne McCaffrey has built is one that's very male dominant. And so for Lisa to sometimes bow to Flar's demands, I don't feel like is Lisa being broken or misogynistic even. I feel like that's just Anne McCaffrey being honest to the world that she's created. And then she gives us Lisa, who is this strong, independent female who's going to say, screw you and your rules. I'm going to do things my way anyway. And I can just appreciate that you can write something and be true to it and still give the readers the character that fights that. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think Dragonflight and the Dragon Riders of Pern, I think it totally stands up to time. I think it's a story that's worth reading and worth being told. It's a fantastic dragon fantasy story that's also got a good bones story about finding where your place is in the world, and maybe that place is outside of the box and breaking that box to make it your place. And I think that's a great story to tell. But let me know what your thoughts. If you've seen Merphy's review, let me know between her review and mine I want to know your thoughts. Be nice to her review. I've seen some of the comments. They are not nice. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and if she doesn't like the book, she's entitled to not like the book. It makes me sad that she doesn't like the book because I think they are great, but she's entitled to not like it. I want to know what your thoughts are, though, on her thoughts and on mine. Do you think she's being too harsh? Do you think I'm being too lenient? She has valid issues with the book. I don't. The same issues that she raises, I feel like, are not an issue in the book. I feel like while she raises a valid issue, and they can be valid points, I just don't feel like that is what happened in the book. And, I mean, eye of the beholder, I guess. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Dragon Rider books. I absolutely adore them. I think they stand up to time. I think they are fantastic reads. I think they should be given more credit in the world of fantasy books. I think Anne McCaffrey in general, her writing and her sci-fi fantasy stuff, like the Rowan series, love the Rowan series, the Crystal Singer series, I love them all. Tell me what you think. I really want to know. I also just want to talk about the series. Let me know what you thought about the issues that Merphy raised. Are they good issues? I mean, did you see them in the book? Do you not see them in the book? I want to know. Let me know. Check out her channel. Her channel is fantastic. I love so many of her videos. And I also love the Dear Author videos that she does, because as an author, I eat that shit up. So I love those videos so much. So show her some love. Be kind. Some of those comments were not kind. But like I said, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Please let me know what you think of the book. I really just want to talk about this book because I've missed them so much. And I did not realize how much I've missed these books until I did the reread. It's like finding an old friend that you haven't talked to forever and then remembering why you're friends. I love it. Please like and subscribe. Please comment, let me know what you think. I really want to talk about this book some more. I will see you guys next time.